Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about the endgame of Dune Awakening and will it be the key for player retention. So let's crack on with it. If you don't know yet, Dune Awakening is an MMO survival RPG from Funcom. There'll be no private servers, just the main server that is broken up into shards, giving it an MMORPG feel. There'll be crafting from gear to vehicles and more, survival mechanics from avoiding the heat of the sun and water being a key part of the game, base building of all shapes and sizes, PvP as well as PvE content, trade hubs, and a giant worm as well as more. The endgame focus in Dune is mainly within the deep desert. It is where you'll find the hardest enemies, the best materials, and a hunting ground for PvPers. But there is also the Landsraad. If you've not watched my breakdown of the Landsraad, be sure to check that out. But in short, a Landsraad is an endgame weekly event where guilds from the two houses complete faction tasks that will award them voting points. Whatever house wins will be able to then compete with their in-house guilds using their voting points to pick one of 3 server-wide changes called decrees. These decrees can range from extra weapon type damage, various vendors, turning the deep desert into a full loot PvP zone, and more. The question is, will this be enough of an endgame to retain players? Time will tell, but we can look into other games of similar genres being MMORPGs and survival games and what makes players keep wanting to go back. Let's first have a look at some MMORPGs. Remember, this is a small part of what makes an MMORPG and why people come back. MMORPGs are quite complex beasts, but one of the main factors of players coming back is progression to endgame, gearing up with endgame gear, PvP, be it castle sieges, GVGs, ganking in the open world, arena, things like that. Doing raids and dungeons is another big thing of MMORPGs, as well as the economy in some games. So the main thing here is progression in some way, shape or form. If we look at Black Desert, for example, there is a never-ending grind for gear, a constant progression loop. In WoW, you have dungeons and raids, as well as other things that players work towards. For me personally, there is a lot I love about MMORPGs, but the main thing being open world PvP. Open world PvP requires gear to compete against the competition, which in turn makes me chase down gear I need to be competitive. Thus, the progression loop is strongly in my mind. In some MMORPGs, they turn to something I disagree with and is quite lazy, boring, and soulless, and that is the dailies. In some cases, players are required to complete dailies to progress. It's still a progression loop meant to keep players coming back every day, but one I don't agree with and a topic for another video. So now let's look at survival games. When done right, survival games can have players coming back constantly. Look at Rust for example. Players come back as if it's a job similar to MMORPGs, but for slightly different reasons. In Rust, there are various servers that have different wipe times, some every week, while some can go on for months. Rust also has a soft and hard wipe system. What does this mean? A soft wipe is when a server wipes, but players can retain their blueprints, engrams, tech tree things, whatever you want to call them. While a hard wipe is all of that stuff wiped and players start fresh, having to progress and learn everything again. So why do players keep wanting to come back when everything is wiped? There is many factors, but the biggest one is PvP, raiding other players, and player interaction. So now let's go back to Arrakis. Dune will have a similar progression system like survival games through the tech tree. Players will level up through different activities and then use the tech tree points they get from leveling to invest into different blueprints. This will be a one-time experience unless the player changes server or deletes their character. There is no force wipe like in Rust. There will also be endgame dungeon-esque content like in some MMORPGs. This will drop endgame materials and I'm guessing some endgame schematics as well as gear. But one thing I'm interested in is how long will it take players to get, say, a couple sets of truly endgame gear. As players don't drop gear on death, they just lose some durability unless the decree for the deep desert to be full loot PvP is in play, which players can avoid if they truly want to. Another thing is the Landsraad, which players can do weekly. Each week, they are tasked to hold capture points, craft up different things like vehicles, survey areas of the deep desert, and more. But will this truly be interesting for players? I mean, I for one can't see myself gathering every week for vehicles to turn in for a task, but that's me, and I know there's probably going to be organized guilds that can pump that stuff out like a factory. But week by week, the thing with the Landsraad is there's not really any progression to it. Sure, there are some amazing benefits for winning, but you're not getting access to unique skins or vehicle styles. There's no unique gear sets or weapons, just benefits that, don't get me wrong, could help progress with mining or PvP, but is that really something that will bring players coming back for more? Another aspect of the game we can talk about is gear. I hope there will be unique gear sets that have set bonuses that can be found at different dungeon locations for players to try and farm. This could keep things spicy for a while until players start getting one too many pieces. Another big endgame loot is spice. Players are forced to go into the deep desert and risk being eaten by the worm to try and obtain spice, which is used to make spiced consumables to fuel the player's ultimate like bar, as well as, I'm hoping, other things too. Dune Awakening will also have player raiding. Raiding won't be the focus of Dune, devs have stated. It will mainly be the fights over the spice fields. Players can quite easily avoid raids if they truly want to. Haga Basin is 98% a PvE zone, with select no build zones being PvP, so there won't be any raiding on there. The Deep Desert will have a PvE zone that players can build in if they really choose to, though this will get wiped weekly, so I doubt anything really will be stored in there outside of vehicles and storage to quickly dump supplies before heading back out. And that's going to conclude this video. I hope this was an interesting talk about Dune Awakening's endgame and if it will be something people will come back for week by week. Dune Awakening is trying to be an MMORPG as well as a survival game, a formula I think could work if done right. I hope Dune Awakening will have a solid foundation for an endgame and something they're constantly thinking about, as a game like this in my eyes is gonna need one. Hard to say truly what the endgame of Dune Awakening will be like until we get our hands on it, as the information we have is a little all over the place and we have to put pieces together to try and paint a picture. But it was something that is on my mind and I really wanted to talk about it. Either way, cheers all for joining me, thanks all for watching, and I'll catch you all on the next one.